audience can be more powerful than building a product.
Yep.
And I'm not suggesting that you can be a SaaS company without a product. And I'm not suggesting that product isn't important. Clearly it is. But note that Liquid Death launched their company with a video and with a sort of a proof of concept. And they started building their fandom and their audience before they actually launched a product. I think it was like over a year later before they actually introduced a product to market. Now, again, it's water, right? Like the differentiation, the spectrum and the potential differentiation cannot be that wide as surely it might be with our products in B2B. But it's clear that we so often in B2B underestimate the power of owning an idea and marketing an idea. And I think, James, you talked a lot about this in the Pop Sugar episode. But I think if you're building a software business today, you should consider building your audience first. Like start getting validation on your idea, start sort of catalyzing a community or an audience of folks that are validating your idea, and then launch the product into that audience. This is the direct-to-consumer play where companies like Liquid Death have been doing this now for years, mastering this as an art form. In B2B, it's still relatively new. We're quick to like launch the product on Product Hunt and kind of go from there. Again, not saying that's a bad strategy, but there's something to this idea of building your audience first. We're admittedly doing it or trying it at Audience Plus at least. Yeah. And so there's something to that strategy that I think that's worth learning from.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about that at Sweetfish a lot. I mean, our whole, strategic narrative is around being your buyer's favorite source of information on the internet, like be their favorite. And I think that shows up so much more. You could say that you're someone's favorite because you built a product that's so exceptional that, people can't live without your product. That's obviously the goal. But when you're talking to a startup who's in the early stage, you're a long way from building something that is so that is such a massive extension of someone's work life that they would consider you to be their favorite product. Something like an Asana or something like a HubSpot that's so integral to what they do day in and day out. That's going to take you years to get to that point, but you can become their favorite content on the internet before you have a product that is, world-class like an Asana or a HubSpot. And so I'm really big on that. I get why, because you've got a lot of founders where the founder of Liquid Death came from advertising. So it makes sense that they leaned so heavy into that. A lot of product founders come from product. They come, they're developers. And so naturally they're not going to think that way. And I think to be able to go all in on something like this, that's got to come from the top. I don't know that even a head of marketing has enough cachet to be able to really lean into this, at least to the extent that Liquid Death has. I mean, the founder needed to be the one leading this movement. The thing that I'll say as a takeaway, it's interesting to me that even a water company gates access to a membership. And so even Liquid Death, I mean, they see the power of first party data. And so like you and I, we've touched on this now 3 or 4 times. Their call to action is sell your soul. To get into their community,
or pay $125,000,
or pay $125,000, which is freaking insane. I wonder if there's a single person. There's got to be a billionaire that's done that just to see what happens. But they call it the Liquid Death Country Club. Yeah. They are gating access to this community, and I think as B2B brands, I mean, thinking about, rather than thinking about gating every single piece of content in the name of building your audience, if you just gated access to membership, and you'd have to frame like what is the value of you being a part of this? Is it intimate community that you create and facilitate between like smaller groups of people that are in the community? Is it exclusive content? I think there's merch drops. We're starting to see B2B companies like Profitwell do things like merch drops, and so some of that like direct to consumer influence is starting to come into B2B. But I'm excited for this, but I think we're even seeing with Liquid Death. I mean, they care about first party data. It's one of the first things you see on their site.
Yeah. One just other point on that I think is interesting is this sounds like, this is actually, I think, a pretty big departure for B2B companies today, is to think about content differently. Because historically, when we've said the word content marketing, we've meant performance marketing. Content teams typically, not always, report into demand gen. And so we're writing blog content against a certain set of keywords in order to show up on search and drive qualified traffic to the sites and turn those into leads. And that's inbound marketing that HubSpot and others have evangelized for years. And I'm not dissuading folks from doing that. That is kind of like table stakes type of digital marketing work to build your traffic, organic traffic, and increase domain authority. You got to do it. But what we're talking about here is effectively saying you need an and in this new world. And the and is editorial content.
Yes.
And that content isn't typically publicly available. It's an exclusive right to subscribers. And it's not just blog content. It could be. It's also some podcasts. And again, not saying all podcasts. Like I think, Sweetfish, you guys, a lot of the work that you guys do is obviously distributing through existing networks like Spotify and Apple Music and Apple Podcasts and all the others. So similar, there's like the discovery kind of component on those third-party networks, but then there's also this idea of like exclusive for subscribers. Like, why should I subscribe to your thought leadership? Well, you can get exclusive content. You can get invites to exclusive experiences or events or digital programs. You can get merch, which I think we'll talk about more in a minute. And all of these things give people helps them have like a clear next step with your brand if they're not ready to buy. And we've said this for years, right? Where years feels like years, James, in the best way possible. But we've said this for about a month of episodes. But 97% of your traffic that hits your site bounces. And people that would be buyers end up being like, hey, this is cool, but I'm out of here. But if they care about your content, if they care about the topic that you're leading on, this gives them a chance to convert and start getting educated and inspired and entertained by the content that you're producing. And of course, Liquid Death has taken this, to an extreme level in a great way, using some pretty choice positioning. But B2B companies can really stand to benefit from this as a strategy.
Yeah. I was actually just listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were talking about, and we default into setting our content calendars based on keywords instead of creating an editorial strategy that is based on our ideas. And if what we see here with Liquid Death is they've got ideas, they've got beliefs, they've got things that they care about, and their content is an offshoot of those beliefs. So like their Death to Plastic campaign, that is a belief that's going to resonate with a lot of people. And so they're not necessarily looking at what are people Googling as it relates to plastic. They're saying, no, this is our belief. And then we're going to create the content off of that. And then if we want to rank for an article on this, then we'll figure out what keywords are going to rank. But the keyword does not determine the content we create.